Abusia ene lawyer Anoche Ababontin Edinkra na so the message na so the nsem Edi abre eye ãngrily the minority leader Nina Efa eye Chief Justice Bafuboni acting Chief Justice Bafuboni say just any approval as the Chief Justice of Ghana no Abusia as the minority led by ãngrily almost say omo entiase omo enhwe emaninsi nene lawyer Anoche Ababontin ababeka ensem or the nsem Edi amane eye the minority led by ãngrily and the MPP Intin some of the more message. How does be media GH? But subscribe like now. Boa share for person be yeah, that's
about integrity and fairness when it comes to the pedigree of the Chief Justice, citing all of these cases and more. The questions that the MPs posed to him, were you impressed by the questions?
Oh, sure, I was impressed because you should understand that in a situation like this, where the majority of MPs, and indeed those present, belong to the government side of the political divide. There are questions that they would ask him, which would, I would say, be soft enough.
So you expected the minority would have been more grilling.
The minority should have been present in Parliament yesterday, and they did great injustice to themselves first. And in fact, when you read political science, the very tenet, the philosophy behind being the opposition, you know, the word opposition is a refined form of enemy. And in a situation whereby you have a hung parliament, like what we had
in the 8th Parliament,
very good, where the attendance of every member was so crucial, to the extent that during the e-levy debate, even a member of parliament
who was sick was brought through with an ambulance
because of the need for numerical strength.
Absolutely.
This one, NDC can always do their business without the need for the minority, because the constitution says parliamentary quorum is just 1/3 of them, and NDC can always satisfy that. So if it had been a hung parliament like it was, then the opposition would have been right walking out, so that they couldn't have done business. Even there, you have to walk out before the counting starts. But when you count and you get a quorum, after that, when you walk away, you don't give a damn to that. But this one, your number is such that even when you sit there or you leave, it doesn't have a bearing. It is proper for you to sit there, so that if the Chief Justice ever collected bribe somewhere, if the Chief Justice ever molested somebody or did anything untoward which should bring him down from where he is, you should know that the majority will never bring this thing out, because more or less they have appointed him. So it is rather when you sit there that you can bring out this thing. So not being there, you haven't done the work of the opposition. You make and
what do you think the public perception is of what happened in the position they took?
I believe that the public, based on the education we are also given, you know, will begin to have a second thought about the meaning of opposition. They have to walk away. Let's say Ghana is going to play the World Cup, and then just the first 5 minutes, they've wasted penalty 2 against you, and then so this referee is so bad, and then you walk out. You understand? You disappoint your country, and you disappoint the very rules regulating the game of football. That was what they did yesterday. So the public perception of them will be bad, and even my own perception, because not my own, everybody's perception. I don't speak for myself here. A few days to what was going to happen, ãngrily made the whole world to know that they will walk out, because they had the support for Tokonu, Mrs. Justice Tokonu. In that case, yesterday, 2 minutes after taking your seat, you should have made that clear, and then you leave. But imagine the caliber of people sitting there: Supreme Court judges, Court of Appeal judges, chiefs, services, everybody there, including your own colleagues, and you waste everybody's time.
They said the handling of them by the, you know, the minority, the majority is what pushed them to walk out.
Very, very unnecessary, because you had made your mind very clear days to the event that you would stage a walkout. You make everybody sit there for hours on end before you walk out.
What would you have recommended they do legally? Because they put a motion forward and the Speaker dismissed the motion to stay that vetting from happening.
How do you have to stay the vetting? You see, listen to me, and then the whole nation would understand. Very easy. When a president is elected by the people, he has a constitutional mandate to appoint his ministers. True or false?
True.
Very good. And then the judiciary has a mandate to hear cases. True or false?
True.
Parliament has a mandate to do its work, which includes vetting.
Absolutely.
You understand? Which is a constitutional mandate. So if you want to stop the court, you cannot stop the court from doing this constitutional mandate of hearing cases, but you can rather stop the court from hearing a particular case. Somebody, let's say, who wants to become a judge, you can stop him.
Okay.
But you can't stop him from hearing cases.
Okay.
Now come to the president. You can stop a particular minister nominee based on certain reasons.
Right.
But you can't stop the president from making appointments.
Absolutely.
Now go to parliament. You can stop a particular parliamentarian from taking his seat in parliament.
Okay.
But you can't stop parliament from embarking upon its constitutional duty of vetting.
Okay.
So what they started with fundamentally was a flaw.
So they should have sat through the vetting and still continue legal, attempts to remove
Easily. If it is Bafuboni you are attacking, the court is there, and even when he becomes president of the Supreme Court, you can remove him based on very good reasons found in the Constitution.
Okay.
Don't you know that the pink sheet case, the Bawumia case, the president was first sworn in, and the Supreme Court continued to do its work.
Okay.
So if the case had turned the other side of the coin, the president and his government would have been made to step down. Very simple. Right. But you can't say that when somebody has won and then he's supposed to be sworn in, which is found in the Constitution, you are going to stop the swearing. That one you can't stop. Okay. So what they were doing had no basis legally, constitutionally. It was a complete flaw.
Okay.
And they still offended the Constitution by not sitting through in order to give very piercing questions if they had.
Could legal action be taken against them for what they did?
No.
Okay.
No legal action can be taken against them because walking out of Parliament is part of the traditions of Parliament.
Right.
At any time when they decide that it
they
is
don't
not
feel a part of
then
it.
they decide they don't want to be part.
Okay.
And there they will be right only when in future Justice Bafuboni misbehaves, then they can come back to say Yanka.
Because they have to work with him, right?
Yeah. If he misbehaves, then they will say Yanka. The man is not good, that's why we work out. But to the extent that he does not misbehave, and especially if he impresses, then it means it will not be a game having gone out.
Okay, now let's look at how realistic some of his suggested reforms are. Virtual delivery of, verdicts, using AI to empanel judges, he mentioned. New ways, advanced modern ways of improving the judicial process to reduce the backlog of cases. Did it sound realistic to you? You're practicing and your colleagues, you probably know what they go through and how difficult it is.
100%. Because, you see, if it takes AI to select judges, that would be very fine. Because I remember many years ago, you went to the registry to file a case, and you could tell the registrar that I want my case to go to Judge A or B. So if today he's going to, in fact, it has changed now. Now they have a system like the lottery.
Okay.
The registered name, given to that suit. They will feed all in the system, and then the
digital system.
Yeah, so if he continues or even improves upon them by the AI he's talking about is very good. And then the delivery of judgment too. When you go to America, Britain and other systems, we are supposed to follow them. You see, the judge always has this national service persons.
Okay.
Many of them. So, for example, if you are High Court A judge in Accra, and very soon it will happen.
Amen.
You understand? You are the judge. You have, let's say, 2 national service persons from their law school who have joined you. Once they have just come from law school, they are very sharp with fresh cases, with everything sharp, and they want to impress. So all your judgments you give them, they will go and do research and come out with the whole thing. Then they sit down with you to discuss it. So here you will see that in a week, you can dispose of 2 or 3 cases because you are working with a team. So you two have time to rest. So we come back and you only read the judgment. And don't forget that the student judges are helping you. They don't know any of the litigants. So whatever they are doing is something that is straight and according to law.
Okay.
I beg to say this truth. Sometimes, I won't say all times, there are certain judges who would want to write their own judgment for certain reasons. And we are human, you know that. So sometimes you become so human to the extent that it makes the work of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court very difficult. Why very difficult? If the judgments from the District Court, the Circuit Court, the High Court are that sound, the lawyers who have lost the case read through with their clients and say that, look, this one you can't appeal. So when you do that, very few cases will go on appeal. So it means that the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court courts will have an opportunity to deal with everything timelessly. So much work. The Chief Justice should do much work at the district magistrate level, circuit court level, and the high court, so that the judgment that can be very efficient, so that when you go on appeal, you know you won't succeed, so you won't even go.
Okay, absolutely. Let's look at the relationship between his style as a Chief Justice and the other arms of government. How do you anticipate this will go, and listening to him and the caliber of person that he is?
Okay. When you go to Britain, we have the supremacy of Parliament. That's why in political science we say that Parliament can do anything at all except turning a man into a woman and a woman into a man. But when you come to Ghana, ours is different. It's the supremacy of the Constitution. So I anticipate that Justice Bafo Boni would interpret the Constitution to the extent that both Parliament and the Executive would not have anything overriding against the interests of the judiciary, because it is only the judiciary that protects the rights of the people. So when you have a wrong judiciary, as Isaiah said in the Bible, it is the whole nation suffers. So based on, as you started from, based on what I know about him, if you could discipline a whole former head of state, and not a former head of state like Asumdwe Atamex or the gentle giant, what do you call him? Jay, but the wild wolf, Jerry John Wallace. If you could discipline him, then it means that you can really be an effective Chief Justice, unless you are in to disappoint Ghanaians.
Did his answers and his posture show that he can handle pressure and scrutiny?
This is not even a question to be asked, because he started as a circuit court judge up to where he is. So he doesn't fear the public, he doesn't fear anybody. And I remember he gave one answer which many people didn't understand. Is it in the case of the Atai, where he sentenced him to 70 years? Yes, and he said if it was lower, this man will come back and then attack my family first.
Well, there are people that are not happy about that.
He should be happy
that it was personalized. It was a personalized verdict.
It was not a personalized verdict. People like you and I will have to explain to the public that when a judge is sentencing you, he takes so many things into consideration. If you're a teenager, he won't give you a long sentence because you need to come and serve society. So he'll give you very relatively short one.
Okay.
And then he will recommend some training, apprenticeship should be given to you, even when in prison. And then if you are old, like me, as I sit here, more than 60 years. So if I commit the same offense as somebody who is 20 years or up to 38 years, and it is robbery, for example, he can decide to give me, let's say, 20 years. Because he knows that when I come out about 80 years, I won't have the strength and the ability to go and rob again. But when you are in your 20s and early 30s, he has to give you very harsh sentence so that society will keep you away. And the time you come in, you either die over there, or when you come in, you will be too weak to be active. That was what he was saying. Okay. He said, you attack my family first. He's telling you, not only my family, your family, that person's family, everybody's family. So people who are robbers. And in one of the escapades of Atai, do you know a policeman was killed? You understand? So if you want to attack the Chief Justice for the answer he gave, why don't you attack Atai first for killing the policeman? Why don't you have sympathy for the family of the policeman?
So those kind of sentences would have replaced the firing squad and all of that.
That's the best answer.
Okay.
We keep you away forever.
Now we have to wrap up, and so I just want you to tell us overall if the vetting process gave you any confidence that the Chief Justice will do the bidding of Ghanaians, and then the judicial system will be more strengthened than it was when he came into the office.
You see, we all know that when you live with your stepmother, you become brilliant more, because they teach you so many bad things that will pin you down, and you fight your way up. You are not pampered. In the case of this Chief Justice, he would always remember how, possibly in the first time of the history of Ghana, Parliament, the minority, had to walk away because of him. So with that, and then also the fact that his senior, when I say his senior, the immediate past Chief Justice will be his senior, not in terms of service, but in terms of position.
The office, okay.
The office, not that she went on pension, but she was dismissed and you came.
Right.
So with that, I'll conclude by saying that Justice Bafuboni would always be minded of the Nigerian proverb, the Yoruba proverb, which says that when the frog in front falls into the pit, the others following take caution. Justice Bafuboni would take caution. What happened to my sister can happen to me, and he will, for that reason, work very hard.
Okay. I belongs out for you when you maybe have read or met him personally.
Well, I know the man because being a senior counsel in Ghana, I do appear before some of such judges.
Right.
And I remember when I was working with the new Samuel Senko, we had a case before him at the Fast Track High Court. And I remember one day he was making an illustration in court about the height of somebody. And then he said, that person is as short as, yes, Lawyer Nochi. The person is very short.
Okay.
And then he said, don't be offended. I'm talking about your height. And you should understand you are not tall.
Okay.
So that was
very candid.
Yeah, where I got, I would say, close to him. Not personal level, but at that level I realized that he was a very humorous person.
Okay.
Putting that one aside, I believe that he's a very firm person, and he really represents the face of the judiciary anywhere in the world. And I will give you 2 or 3 instances. The first one was when he was a high court judge in the Brown-Hafo region. It was the time when a certain man called Ajiudin, he was a paramount chief of Achirensua, and a very senior member of the chancellery of KNUST. But the whole nation knew him as a very respectable personage. And I know that there was a scuffle in his palace. Some people wanted to destroy him, and it became personal. So he pulled a gun. And then in an attempt, just by way of, a warning shot, the bullet rather went far away to kill an innocent person who was fueling at a fuel gas station. Yes. And he was arrested and brought before the district magistrate court. At that time, the magistrate was called Mr. J. Wilson, who is now incidentally a court of appeal judge in Accra. Yeah. And he remanded him in custody, and that is the position of the law. That you first be brought before a magistrate, and he will remand you. Then you would make a bail application at the Superior Court. So Ajiudin made an application at the High Court, and the then supervising High Court Judge Sunyane released him on bail. And Attorney General filed another application for the man to be kept in custody. At that time, bail was, murder, and for that matter, manslaughter, were not bailable offenses. So the Attorney General did not understand how Justice Jasai, supervising High Court, could release this man on bail, the Ajiudin. when the application came before Justice Bafuboni,
right,
he reversed the whole thing and kept the man behind bars. So that showed how firm he was. And then come the time when carried them, Nana Kunadu Ajiman, in that case, you know, and then Sharia and they appeared before Justice Bafuboni at the First Strike High Court. And when the case was mentioned and his wife stood up, according to order, the former president, Flight Lieutenant Wallace, also stood up, you know, more or less morally to back his wife. And if it had been any other judge, you know, being a former head of state president, and then his wife. So that casual moment, you pretend you haven't seen the president standing up, the former president standing up in the courtroom. But Justice Bafuboni did not pretend he had not seen the man. He said, "Sir, sit down, because you have not been asked to stand up." And indeed, that is the custom in court. Even for two lawyers arguing, when you are on your feet arguing, and then another person rises, it means going to challenge you for some reason. Immediately you resume your seat. The judge must never see more than one person unless the judge has himself called you. So this man, to cut a long story short, I would say disciplined the former president for him to know that when it comes to law, nobody is above the law. And from that moment, the whole nation came to respect Justice Bafuboni. Then during the pink sheet case, where Bawumia excelled, everybody knows that the way he answered questions in court, he really excelled, and he was so impressive. That was the time everybody thought that in Ghana, when you have an Ashanti name, you are an Ashanti. It means you like MPP. When you have an Ewe name, you are Ewe. It means you like MDC, which is a very wrong and misleading connotation. So they thought that Justice Bafuboni was going to be on the side of those who voted in favor of the MPP. You know, he disappointed them. And that should tell you the person, the sort of person he is, that he believes in integrity and the pursuit of justice rather than any consideration. For these three examples I've given, I believe that at the moment he's the best person for the job.
Absolutely. Now, let's look at the vetting. What stood out for you? He answered various questions about how to fast-track cases, you know, reducing the backlog, infrastructure when it comes to the judicial system, and all of that, legal aid and the support and financial, you know, inputs there.
Well, I think this is something in the short term that he has got, because very soon he will be 70 and he will be compelled to leave the place. I believe there should be something revolutionary that he should do so that Ghana will forever remember him, just as we remember Kwame Nkrumah. Because we have created new regions. You know, Techiman. Already, Techiman was bigger than even Sunyani. And I'm told that in the 40s and 50s, when the Bono and Ahaf were part of Ashanti, Techiman was like the second biggest town after Kumasi in the then Ashanti region.
Because of the trade, I believe.
It's so huge. And you can't imagine Techiman not having a high court even then. So now that he's the Chief Justice, he should ensure that Techiman will have about 5 or 6 high courts. And then a big town like Obuasi should have about 3-4 high courts. Now go to Takwa, 3-4, and then Asankragwa is a very big town chasing Techiman. There is not even a circuit court in Asankragwa. And then the whole of the Nzema area, there is only one new circuit court in Axim. And even there, the judge sits only once a week. And then go to the Sehi area, Sehi and our new region, Western North region, only one high court. Then go to the north, you move from one high court to the other. And it is a very big burden for litigants, just as lawyers. And for police it is worse, because there are certain cases, like rape and others, robbery, which cannot be handled at the magisterial level. So when you talk to the police commanders, they will tell you that they use their own money to transport both victims and perpetrators from their center to the nearest circuit court or high court. So this man, Bafuboni, I believe, has a very Herculean task. And then when it comes to infrastructure, you know, you go to many of the towns and you see hospital, very beautiful, even the post office, very nice. And then when they show you a court, oh Jesus, you don't feel good. Until recently, look at how Cocoa Affairs was. A friend of mine came all the way from Zimbabwe to visit Ghana, and when we were passing by the Cocoa Affairs, I wanted us to drive very, very fast. And the driver made a mistake and said, please, this is a high court in Ghana. I got very angry with him. My own driver, I was very angry with him.
Absolutely.
Now, luckily, we are going forward, and I believe he will do more.
So for you, infrastructure and how vast and expand the
system with so many judges, then if he is listening to me, you know, now I've seen a situation whereby many of the high court judges in Accra have been promoted to the Court of Appeal. And then the courts are vacant, and some have remained vacant for about 6 months. So it wasn't his making. You understand?
Okay.
I would have wished that the man could be promoted, all right, and then he will sit at the High Court as an additional Court of Appeal judge. No problem.
Okay.
You take him away,
and then you
just said where he was. There will be people at the Court of Appeal to do the work there.
Okay.
So he should ensure that no court will be vacant for even a day.
Okay. So these are some of the recommendations. I'll still pick more of the recommendations. But in his answers, was there anything that's part of how independent the judiciary will be under him? Taking cognizance of the minority side, with all the brouhaha about the removal of the former CJ, and, you know, him even sitting on certain cases way before the president nominated him for the Council of State to approve?
Well, I believe that under the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, we don't really have anything called judicial independence. We don't have it, right? No, we don't have it. You know, people say we have, unless you are not very Pearson, and then you come and sit here and say, oh, we don't have it. In Ghana, what we have is a colossus, you know, a colossal executive with 2 wings, small wings. You see, the 1992 Constitution was crafted by a government that was also itching to transit from military dictatorship to civilian democracy. Therefore, the Constitution was built in a manner that the president then would have all the powers of a military leader. And so, look at the way the Chief Justice is dismissed in Ghana. If you and I are, let's say, litigating over this bottle of water, even with the bottle of water, when it gets to the Supreme Court, there will be the empanelment of 5 judges of the Supreme Court. Now, you are talking about the dismissal of the president of the Supreme Court, and then one of the 3, the head of one of the 3 arms of government, and you are saying that the application goes to the executive president. It doesn't go to the judiciary. It goes to the executive, so it becomes political. And then another wing of the Executive Council of State. And then the president has a right to make selection of the panel members, still executive duty.
That will sit on the
5 members.
Disputed.
Very good. And the 3 ordinary people from anywhere. And as again 2 judges, you understand, Superior Court judges. I believe that fundamentally that is unfair. The Constitution should have made it like, if you apply for the Chief Justice to be dismissed on any grounds, it should be 7 senior judges of the Supreme Court, based on ranks, so that whoever is going to select them would not have an opportunity to pick and choose what he likes, but 7 according to the rule of seniority. And then you also state that their decision should always be unanimous if it is to dismiss him. So it will be like giving a seal to the whole thing, such that it becomes almost impossible to dismiss a Chief Justice in Ghana. But to say that anybody working in the street, you file an application to the president gives to the Council of State, and the Council of State is always subservient to the President of the Republic. And then the president, oh Jesus Christ, always. Have you seen the Council of State ever going against the decision of a president in the country? There was only one time the Council of State made a certain decision, and look at the decision it made. Ghana's Council of State met, and they called Wallace and warned him And I thought it was going to be a warning in the interest of everybody that jet you are using is like a flying coffin. So go and buy a better one for yourself. That is an advice coming from the council. So that should tell you that the Council of State is always there for the President of the Republic. So if the President plans to dismiss you, like a city, I'm a CPP man. If I want to dismiss anybody, I will just select 3 CPP members, and then as against any 2 Supreme Court judges, and then the next day you will go. So it is the Constitution that should be amended to reflect a genuine separation of powers. Otherwise, anybody can do anything to it.
Well, that's quite worrying. And so if you look at judges, Supreme Court judges, or even the CJs from the past, because of how they are selected, have they been in any way able to achieve anything that inures to the benefits of the people independently without going to, certain political sides?
To a very high extent, yes.
Okay.
In fact, the judges in the country, the Supreme Court judges in the country, over the years have really excelled. Go to Akroma time, where there was an attempt on Nkroma's life at Kulumgugu, and the Chief Justice then, Sir Akukosa, was able to rule against the president. That led to his dismissal, but I believe he stood his ground. Not I believe, he indeed stood his ground as somebody whose office was separate and distinct from that of the executive.
Right.
Then in the Rawlings era, I also know that even the Chief Justice he himself put there, and the judges he himself had actually put there, were able to rule against him in the case of this 35 December, and that they wanted 35 December to be a holiday in Ghana. So with even these 2 instances, I believe our judiciary has done very well, and they continue to do well. And the only time I didn't like the judiciary was just the run up to the election, when almost every application AfenyoMarkins will send the next day the Chief Justice will set up a panel to hear it, and it will go in favor of the majority then. To the extent that even when the Parliament...
This is the dismissed Chief Justice.
Sure, certainly. When a whole Parliament, going by the Constitution, that once you desert your party, where do you sit again in Parliament? Because you are there on the ticket of a certain political party. And that is why you are given a place to sit. It's not like in Nkroma's time when the Constitution, the first Republican Constitution, stated that you...